Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Emergency Podcast. A big-time NBA trade has happened. The Houston Rockets finally trade James Harden to the destination he always wanted to go to, the Brooklyn Nets. A ton of moving pieces in this deal. Caris LeVert was in the trade, but he was shipped to Indiana, and Victor Oladipo goes from Indiana to Houston. Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince go from Brooklyn to Cleveland in the deal. The Rockets will receive Oladipo, Dante Exum, Rodions Caruso, 3 unprotected first-round picks in 2022, 2024, and 2026, and pick swaps in 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027. The Rockets also get Cleveland's 2022 first-round pick via the Milwaukee Bucks. And Houston is sending a 2023 second-round pick to the Pacers. Brooklyn also gets a 2024 second-round pick from the Cavaliers. The Nets have 3 open roster spots now. Obviously, Harden and Kevin Durant reunited. That is a big storyline. So their lineup now is James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan, and Joe Harris. That is now their starting 5. That is pretty darn good. I think Brooklyn, although it mortgaged a lot of their depth that they had with dealing LeVert and Allen and Caruso. Caruso, I think, is underrated and showed promise when he was a rookie. He took a step back last year. I think a change of scenery can help him. I think Brooklyn has to be the favorite in the East now with Harden and Durant. Durant, by the way, looks like the Durant of old. So Brooklyn has to be the favorite to me because of how good Durant has been. And Irving or not, Brooklyn's loaded and they're ready to go. And it has to be finals or bust for this Nets team. You got James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. That is an awesome big 3. The best big 3 in the NBA probably right now. And they have to be considered the favorites for the 1 seed in the East now for sure, even though right now that they're sitting at, with their victory over the New York Knicks, right now they are sitting at 7-5 or 6-5. So Brooklyn pulls off this mega deal. I think they'll miss Jarrett Allen because I don't think DeAndre Jordan is very good anymore. And then LeVert, really good young player. They had to give up something good to get something great. And James Harden is the something great. And then Caris LeVert is the something that's very good. And then all those picks, obviously. A lot of people are comparing this to when they went out and got Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. But the difference is that those 2 guys are past their primes. And they're just big names. And Brooklyn thought that they were still the same guys as they were in the Celtics championship run in 2008 and in their finals run in 2010. So obviously that didn't work out as Boston obviously landed the 2 picks that netted them Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are the core foundation of that team now. This is different. This is still a superstar in his prime that obviously wanted to be traded. This is the biggest NBA trade we've had since Paul George to the Clippers last year, and then they pulled off the Kawhi signing as well. And this is the Nets conference to lose, in my opinion. Milwaukee and Philadelphia might have something to say about that, but Brooklyn has to be taken seriously, and I think that they're the second threat to the Lakers now. They're the biggest threat to the Lakers in terms of repeating as well. Other sides of the deal, I think the Rockets got a fair return here. A bunch of unprotected picks and some pick swaps as well. So in total, 8 first-round picks. 6 of them from Brooklyn and 7 first-round picks. Or 8, my bad. 7 from Brooklyn, including the 4 swaps, and then the Cavaliers 2022 pick that came from the Bucks in the George Hill trade a while back ago. So Houston, I don't know if that Milwaukee pick is going to be very good, obviously, because Milwaukee's obviously a contender. And that's a good asset to have if you're Cleveland. And obviously you turn that asset into something good in Jarrett Allen. So he should be their starting center now. And I think the Cavs made out well in this deal as well. Rodion Caruso, I think, could be a player for them. And it's funny, him and C.D. Osman, I think, have some similarities. I think that C.D. Osman's a good ceiling comp for Rodion Caruso. And then so Caruso obviously goes to Houston in the deal. And Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. So Prince is a good asset that if you're Cleveland. So Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, and then obviously Sexton and Garland. That's a nice little foundation that the Cavaliers have. So I think they made out well in this deal. The Rockets got a lock back. I think they can flip Exum again. And then originally LeVert was going to Houston, but they flipped him to Indiana for Oladipo. And I think Indiana made out well in this deal. And by the way, I think that Oladipo, a change of scenery, I think could benefit him a little bit. He becomes obviously the guy again in Houston, because obviously in Indiana he's no longer the guy. The guy there has kind of become like a thing between a couple players on that team, and I think LeVert has a really good opportunity to showcase here at the Pacers, and then I think he's a keeper for them. So once TJ Warren comes back from injury, it's going to be Warren, LeVert, Brogdon, Sabonis, and Miles Turner. That is a really good fivesome. And I'm surprised that Turner's not in this trade, to be quite frank. I mean, he would have been a good get for the Rockets in this deal. But maybe they're going to look to trade him somewhere else to get like a stretch four or something. But I think LeVert would be great on Indiana. I think Oladipo will be fine with Houston. And I'm interested to see how the backcourt with him and John Wall will work. So now it's John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Rodion Caruso, DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood, P.J. Tucker, who I'm surprised isn't in this deal. He should have went to Brooklyn in this deal with James Harden, because P.J. Tucker would have been a fantastic bench addition for the Nets, something that they obviously lack right now. And there's obviously going to be buyout guys. Maybe P.J. Tucker will be a buyout guy. Obviously, the Rockets are not a good team anymore. I mean, Oladipo might keep him in some games alone, but I don't think that would be enough. Like, he's obviously a worse player than James Harden at this point, and will be that way going forward. And some other aspects to this deal is more with the Nets. They have a couple open roster spots, so they make some more moves. Like I mentioned, P.J. Tucker is a possible buyout guy for them. I think they should have gotten him in this deal, to be quite frank. And Sean Marks and Nets ownership really deserve credit for pulling this off. And obviously they had some help in this deal. And this is such a mega trade. And I think that obviously Brooklyn's the big winner in the trade because they get the best player in the trade, and that is James Harden. I think the loser in this deal is, unfortunately, Victor Oladipo, because he obviously is now on a bad team. But he could potentially be a winner here if he plays well, and Houston could flip him again and get more assets, and he can go to a contender and be this awesome second or third wheel on a contender that could use him. LeVert in Indiana, I think that LeVert, I think, is a sneaky, great acquisition for Indiana, and I'm interested to see how he gels with Malcolm Brogdon, C.J. Warren once he comes back, and Domantas Sabonis, as I mentioned, and Miles Turner. And Cleveland got some young guns in Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince. And that opens up another subplot. What's next for Andre Drummond and Kevin Love? Obviously, now their front court is very crowded. Do they move on from one of those guys potentially? I think that both of those guys can help teams. Obviously, Kevin Love has that terrible contract, probably the worst contract in the NBA other than John Wall and Russell Westbrook. And then Drummond, I think, could have value to somebody. So, obviously, now Cleveland has a logjam up front. All right, so quick little emergency podcast to discuss the biggest trade that the NBA has seen in a year and a half when Paul George got sent from Oklahoma City to the Clippers for all those picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari. But obviously, this is a big one too, but this isn't as big of a surprise as the other one because James Harden wanted to go to Brooklyn all along, and it worked out, and nobody, and I mean nobody, had Paul George available. Like, nobody knew that, and then they were able to pull that off, and that was just a major surprise to everybody. So, there you have it for the emergency podcast. I'll be back tomorrow discussing the impeachment of Donald Trump, Mass Dancer, NBA, NHL opening night, college basketball, and looking ahead to tomorrow's games in each of those three sports, and anything else that happens in the world of sports and pop culture I'll have for you as well. Hope you guys enjoy the night.